All right, I'm here with TJ Cole. Happy Sunday, sir.
Well, happy Sunday to you too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Did you do an inspection today already?
Yes, we had it was more of a follow-up for a septic inspection attached to a home inspection.
Well, that happens quite a bit. You know, you're in Maine. There's a lot of septics.
There's a lot of septics. People don't, when they get them installed or they move in the home, they just think, oh, I just don't need to pump it out.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you joined me. I'm very active on social media, and believe it or not, I do more reading than I do writing. And I promise I'll make you look good in this, no matter who sees it. And if you don't like it at the end, we don't have to post it. But I think we're going to help a few home inspectors understand the way the world works in a bigger, broader sense. Because the post you made, and I'll find it real quick because I want to read this. And this was inside of a home inspection group for an association, and it said something to the extent of, hey, I'm frustrated that sometimes agents get involved, and they might get over involved, and then they might not like my report. And I've been getting a few that thought we were a little bit aggressive on reporting. And obviously, as an inspector, you don't want to change what you report, right? We're here to find defects that exist, and we're not here to find defects that don't. It should be noted, as I say all this, that the reason I reached out to you, because there's 100 inspectors a day posting somewhere that say, gosh, this agent's in my zone, or this agent's bugging me. I usually don't care about them because they're not my dudes, but you're one of my dudes. You're out there and you're promoting a great message, and that's been working for you. And now that you're out there marketing really well, you're running into new agents, higher end brokers, people that sell a little bit more real estate, people that have seen a lot of inspections, and so they have some context. They can compare what you do to the other 100 inspections they've seen in their real estate career. So I offered, a lot of guys offer their opinion. It's kind of an unqualified advice thing. Oh yeah, I hate it when agents are over the top. Or I only deal with the agents that are the good ones. These are the typical responses. My response was to ask you for a sample report, and you were kind enough to send me two. Is that all right if I share these?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, let's do a Nathan Thornberry level inspection report review. And it can be brutal. I apologize in advance. I don't mean to offend you in any way. And by the way, I see all those looks like Marine Corps stuff in the background there. Were you in the Marine Corps?
No, I was a Marine Corps brat. Now, those are all my father's accomplishments. Though I was immersed into the culture a lot, and I have high respect for any men and women that bravely serve and sacrifice their lives for this country.
I agree, and we thank him for his service. And I think, being a Marine Corps brat, I think you have learned to address everything very diligently. And I've watched some of your posts. When we're done with this report review, I might go to a couple of the questions that you've asked in these inspection groups, and talk about some of the feedback that you've gotten, and give you a little bit of my own. But let's start with these. So I hope you can see them on your screen.
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay, great. So these are two sample reports from accredited inspections, home inspections in Maine. And on the left side here, I have this report number 2. This is a report style that you have largely abandoned for the new one on the right side here, which is a new and improved one. And I'll go into what that change was. I've reviewed them a little bit. Let's start with this one on the right side, since this is the one that you're using. And let me tell you, the cover page is great. It's fine. It shows a picture of the house. I guess you decided to fly your drone that day. Is that a accurate statement?
Yeah, I really prefer running the drones every inspection. A lot of the agents up here really love the fact that it adds more depth to the property, adds to say you more, kind of makes them feel like you have more bang for your buck. And everyone loves the fact that especially if I have a lake nearby, they actually print out the photos and actually put them in their living room.
Well, that's a great point, and we're going to do a fairly in-depth review of this report, okay? And there's going to be some good things, and there's going to be some bad things. And you know, I've done a little cursory check, and I found some things that I think are creating that situation where an agent is calling you out and saying, "Hey, you're being a little bit aggressive on this one." And again, it's not with bad intention, and it's not because you found a defect that doesn't exist. It's because of the way that they're put, and we'll go into that. But on this front cover page, I think it's worth noting that yes, it's cool that there's a pond right next to this property, and you were able to get that with your drone. Keep in mind when you go and take those pics that if there's something that isn't pretty, isn't serene, that you might want to, I don't know, take a picture of that drone from a little bit lower. And is that a part of inspecting? No, but there's a home buyer that's buying this house, and that's their dream, right? Whatever it is. So, there's no reason to show something that isn't, isn't pretty in that picture if you can avoid it. Right. So always keep that in mind. I like that you give the agent a call out. So this is automatically, from your database, you get that agent picture, you get that agent name, and then you go into a table of contents. And what I saw here was not really a well-defined summary. I'll get into why I say that, but the table of contents is fine. And then we get into a little bit of trouble. So I see a lot of inspectors do this, and this is kind of nutty to me. You have the inspection agreement that lays out what you do, how you do it, what obligations you have to the client. And not to say that you don't exceed those obligations, you clearly do every day. But then you have to repeat it, and sometimes in a different context in the inspection report. So you say that this is not pass or fail. You say that it's visual. You're kind of repeating these scope of inspection issues. And then you tell them to read the report. But then you go into a little bit out of your lane here, under repairs, evaluations, and corrections. And I'll quote, "For your protection and that of others, all repairs, corrections, or specialist evaluations should be performed by a qualified contractor or licensed professional. Safety hazards or poorly performed work can continue to be a problem or even be made worse when sellers try to save money by hiring inexpensive, unqualified workmen or by doing it themselves. Be sure to take whatever actions are necessary before the expiration of your inspection object deadline." I think you meant to say inspection objection there. So, do a little spell check and grammatical review, but also remove all of that. I mean, you are going way outside of your lane. What business is it of yours whether a buyer and seller agree in the inspection response, which is a better word than objection? You used objection multiple times. During the inspection response period would be a better way to say it, and a more appropriate way to say it for the real estate transaction in most markets. But why say here, hey, warning, that seller might really screw all of this up for you by trying to repair something himself? Why? Is that your place to do that?
It doesn't sound like it. No, when you put it that way, you're right.
Well, this is right at the beginning of the report. So we start the journey that someone has, and by someone, I mean the two parties. You have the agent and you have the home buyer, and the home buyer buys one house every 6 or 7 years. They see one inspection every 6 or 7 years, and before they get to the first defect, the thing that you were actually there to do, which is find defects that exist and report them as such, they have a big warning, and you've basically told them, if whatever negotiation there is there with the seller, I'm going to inject this thought into your mind. I'm not saying that it's not a good thought, or that it doesn't make some common sense, or that, as a guy that was involved in around 500,000 real estate transactions last year, largely on the inspection side, that I don't see, my fair share of nightmares that were created by a seller fixing stuff on the weekend. But it's just not our place to do it. The agent has the obligation to guide their client, and it is their client. They represent them as an agent in the real estate transaction. And this is for them to say. Do a final walkthrough. Okay, well, it's good advice, and conditions can change and whatever. That's great. Did you know about our walkthrough guide?
Walkthrough guide.
Yeah, we have a walkthrough guide. It gets customized with all your logos on it. It's a resource. So, it's just a better way to approach this. You can automate an email to the real estate agents that has, after every inspection, or you can do it through your marketing with your blast emails. And you can say, hey, agents at Accredited, we want to be a wonderful resource for you. We're providing you, the real estate agent, this walkthrough checklist. Because I think, what you're preventing here is the agent that doesn't do a walkthrough, the client that doesn't think it's important and decides to skip it and forces it to be skipped, or the agent that doesn't know what they should actually be looking at time of walkthrough. And it's up to us, if we're going to be really good stewards of the inspection industry. It's up to us to educate the agents on that walkthrough process. So that's in your resources, by the way. If you just log into your Recall Check account, there's a walkthrough checklist, and it customizes with all your stuff. And that's a better approach. If every agent in your market had a walkthrough checklist and was doing their job, you wouldn't have to put this additional warning. And by the way, we're happy to help. We'll be happy to answer your questions to the best of our ability. Ooh, man. Now you hit me with something that I don't like. I don't like when people respond to things without closing the loop, without finality. And as an example, just ask me a question about anything right now, just anything in the world. Ask me a question.
How long have you been inspecting?
Pretty long, to my knowledge. Yeah, I'll try to the best of my ability. I will answer that question. And, it's just fluff. So, you want to take your statements and take them down to, we'll be happy to answer your questions to the best of our ability. No, we will answer all of your questions. We're here. We're available for you. Call us. It's a great message, but it ended with an excuse. Next, notice to third parties. Now this is a really great one. This is one of the more aggressive paragraphs on this topic I've ever seen. This is my property, this report. Okay. If you're reading it, you're committing a crime. I'm going to come arrest you. Okay. So you did the inspection, you got paid, you submitted a report, and that report listed all of the defects from the time that you were there at that property. What's your interest in owning that report?
That's a good question.
Let me flip it around on you completely. Okay, let's put you in the position of being on the other side of the transaction here, and let's say that you're getting an inspection on a house yourself. You have an inspector come out, and you pay him $500, and the work product, the thing that you got in exchange for that $500, the thing you can hold, feel, look at on your computer screen, is an inspection report. And then he tells you that he owns it. How would you feel about that?
Yeah, definitely seen that from the inside out, or from other perspective. That kind of does make me feel a little questionable. I was like, that doesn't sound right.
I know this. If I buy a report, and I buy reports all the time, it could be a market report on the radon industry, for instance.
Okay.
When that comes to me, it might have some limitations on use, but it doesn't have a, we own this along with you. We both own it. But if you're looking at this and you're not one of us, scram. I mean, this is the only industry where this kind of stuff happens. And it's kind of ironic, right? Because the same guys, the home inspectors, are going to buy a truck from Ford, and then they're going to expect to be able to resell it. At the end of the day, they're going to expect to be able to resell that Ford truck to somebody used. And when they do, does that mean that Ford gets a piece? No, because they sold it. You sold it. Your service was to create a report. You did it. You sold it to that party. That party now owns it. The thing that this type of notation in a report tries to prevent is this hypothetical, and only a few times ever in history, reality, by the way. So it's largely hypothetical, legal liability issue that your report is going to go to this buyer, and then that buyer is going to take it and he's going to give it to the seller and say, here's this list of items that I want to correct. And the deal falls through. And then the seller puts your report out on their countertop and says, here's the report that Accredited did. And these were all real issues. We had a buyer come in. We couldn't come to terms. So here's the list of issues that they found back in July. And by the way, here's all the things that we corrected, and here's the receipts with them. And that ends up being in a binder, digitally in the notes, that sort of thing. Is that a problem? Would that be a problem for you? Are you worried that the future buyer is going to take that report, use it in their purchase decision, and then you become liable for an inspection negligence issue?
I don't think so, because I know when I put that stuff in there, it was all recommended to me by other inspectors. Say, hey, cover your tail, cover your tail, cover your tail. We've been sued before. Cover your tail. So kind of
Yep.
one of the
And
moments of, yeah, I would rather protect myself, because there was a guy that did inspections for 15 years and had to get out because of something like this that could have prevented it. So I guess it was kind of one of those fear moments, but didn't really think of how it would feel as a customer.
well, I think that guy that got out after 15 years got out because he wasn't making enough money.
Flip
I mean,
side, yeah.
what was the thing? If you could go back 15 years in the DeLorean and start over again and spend less time covering his own ass from hypothetical legal bullshit that he's not even close to qualified to analyze. If he had instead focused on a great delivered simple product, he'd probably be in a better place. And then he wouldn't be out over one issue. He could write the check to solve the issue if there were really one created. And I can only imagine there's, more to that story, right? After 15 years, he got sued. Well, he didn't get sued because the house was in perfect condition or because nobody experienced some sort of damages. Could be something to it. Just saying. All right, let's go to this. And this is where the summary that I couldn't really identify as a summary, and I'm going to show the old version of this because you made an improvement, okay? And you made an improvement, but you missed one word. So in the old version, you had the items inspected, minor concern, moderate concern, and then serious concern. And the new version, you don't make that distinction, which is which is a good move. Okay. I applaud this. I think you did a good job by saying, okay, I'm not going to be the one that determines if something's moderate or serious. I'm just going to put all of the things that where a repair is needed into this one category. So here's the problem. I would put at the end of moderate concern / repair the word needed. I think it's missing. Just a minor thing there, because if just because and somebody somewhere will take things I say the wrong way or out of context and say, oh, that guy said that you don't need to protect yourself from a report being used by a third party, so he must want you to have more liability. No, not really. I just don't want you to be afraid of your own shadow when it's fake liability or needle in a haystack stuff. But that doesn't mean we want to be suicidal about it. And I think putting the word needed here says that there's a repair needed, which is related to something else we're going to go through here in your report. Now, this is the quote summary, and the summary is okay. I'm okay with it because it gave very simple versions of everything, right? So here, your electrical branch circuits, receptacles, inoperable, splices exposed, bootleg ground, inoperable receptacle, a plate missing, GFCI failure. There's your list. And as a real estate agent, you could look at this and go, all right, electrical is safety issues, and I'm going to ask that all of these electrical issues be repaired. Very common way for things to be addressed. Or they're going to look at it and say, okay, here's the things that are important to the client. We need to get an estimate on all of these things so that we can negotiate for those repairs with the seller. Maybe the seller's not in a good place for one reason or another, which we will, in most cases, never be aware of actually performing the repairs. It could be that they don't want to be inconvenienced, don't have the time, don't have the resources, don't have the financial ability to do it. It's going to have to come from the sale. So there's going to be an escrow. There's all these little nuances that we're never aware of. So this is pretty good, though. I mean, it gives a nice little guide. Now let's go to the electrical page. And it's kind of cool in your PDF that I can press that button and go straight to the electrical page. Oh man. All right. So let's start with this one. This is where I think your notes are a little bit out of line. The service panel was made by Sylvania. These panels are outdated and are reputed. They're reputed to have a high rate of circuit breaker failure, which can result in a fire or shock / electrocution, which means you're going to die. The inspector recommends that before the expiration of your inspection objection, there's that word again, objection, rather than inspection response period, or inspection contingency period is another way to put it. You consult with a qualified electrical contractor concerning the necessity for replacing the service panel. Whoa, let's unpack that for a second. So not only did you have an inspection agreement that said, here's the scope of what I'm going to do, but then at the beginning of a report, you said, hey, you idiot, you need to have all this stuff repaired by a qualified guy, and do not trust that seller, damn it. But then I'm going to repeat it a third time and say, you're going to die. And it's going to be the electrical panel that's going to do it. And you need to be consulting. There's 60 items on the list of defects in this older home. And we're going to make sure that you never get to a closing table, because on every single individual one, you, buyer, you need to consult. You need to sit down and talk to an electrician, because that's a really fun thing to do. No, they don't need to consult with a damn electrician. There's either a defect or there's not. They either ask for it to be repaired or they don't, right? Why do we have to add all this in? What's the logic behind, hey, you could be electrocuted? I gather you didn't write this note. I think this is from a library of notes. Am I correct?
Oh, you'd be correct on that. I wanted to make sure I had I guess at the time, the best way of getting information across my clients, and to be fair, some of them I probably never even read fully. I just knew that they would get their attention, and I guess that's what I wanted, is grab their attention, and I didn't expect that much attention.
Well, it's getting that attention because it's going to people that aren't, right there in your sphere. You're growing your business. You're um, meeting a lot of new people, and you're learning a little bit about real estate now. This note says basically you're going to die if you don't spend all the time, talking to an electrician about this, and this reputed word, like whoever wrote this, seriously. Um, Here's the question you have to ask them, because it's clearly somebody who understands inspection. It's clearly someone who understands that there have been problems with breakers and Sylvania panels. By the way, do you know how many people they've killed?
That's probably a good statistic I probably should research.
Well, when you search on Google and find out how many people have actually been, killed by electrocution by that line of Sylvania panels. When you find out that answer, then you'll have an idea of how minimal the issue really is. The issue that somebody was trying to combat was that an electrician walks in behind them, and this is what happens in a home inspector's career. They go out, and at some point, the guy that wrote this note wrote something like a normal note. A Sylvania panel is here. These have been known to have issues. Recommend having an electrician further evaluate. There you go. Simple. That's your simple note. And one time, somebody came in behind an inspector and said, well, you didn't tell me that this was as big of a problem. And so he goes back and adjusts his note in a way that makes it so no one ever wants to see his report ever. And so I would ask whoever wrote this, how many inspections they do in a month, how much business they do in revenue in a year, not off narrative writing, but off of inspection services. And I think that I know the answer will be low. Let me put it that way, because there's no way this is going to be accepted. In the service panel, 2 wires were connected to a breaker designed for only 1 wire. This is known as double tap and is a defective condition that should be corrected by a qualified electrical contractor. Okay, this one's better. And it's better because the severity of this issue is less, right? The number of double tap breakers that have killed people is pretty low. So, what would I change here? I'd just say a double tap breaker was noted at main electrical panel. Recommend repair is needed. That's it. Done. But the note here isn't too far off from it, because there aren't electricians coming in behind you on a double tap breaker and charging people a lot of money or scaring them about a panel that has had a few problems. Let's go on a little bit more too in the electrical side. Oh man, you talk a lot about a single GFCI. I noticed that in your report. Like every single outlet, you went through the whole process of how it was tested, what it did, what it didn't do. Why not just say, there's a faulty GFCI outlet at, east side of home, repair is needed.
Well, I guess I was just trying to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Educating.
Okay, but who are we educating? And now we get to the real point, which is, and as I read this report, I'm just telling you, what the hell you're doing. Okay. You are a great inspector. You're a thorough inspector, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're finding real defects. You're not finding fake defects. Who are we educating?
Well, I would definitely say the buyer.
Okay. So how much education do they need? GFCI is bad. They need to know that the GFCI is bad. They need to know that it needs to be repaired, and they need to talk to their agent about making a response in their inspection contingency period regarding that issue. There was one, I got to find this. This was a great one. 1 second. It was also in the electric. in the electrical section. No, it wasn't that one. Well, there's one note in here that actually goes as far as to say this issue needs to be corrected before closing, much like that one that just said something about the inspection objection period. And so I have to ask you, as a qualified person in the real estate side and qualified in the home inspection side, I kind of see both sides of this. So I'm not trying to be snarky or sarcastic. But what business is it of yours whether they negotiate that repair?
In hindsight of that, none of my business.
What is our job as a home inspector?
Simple terms, they pay us for our opinion on the house and to pick out if the house is structurally sound.
Okay, I think some people would probably go with that mindset and believe that as they go into a real estate transaction if they don't know much about home inspection. We did a survey, by the way. It's at homeinspectionsurvey.com. I think it's homeinspectionsurvey.com. I'm going to confirm that because I don't want to give anybody the wrong URL here. Homeinspectionsurvey.com is, in fact, where the home inspection survey is. So if you want to see what home buyers in the process of buying a home and getting a home inspection think and expect from a home inspector, we have 30,000 responses to questions asked to home buyers at that site. That's homeinspectionsurvey.com. So that's what they expect. But the real purpose of a home inspection, and I'm going to go back to a liability issue, is that agents don't like to be held responsible for things. And a home inspection industry was invented many decades ago. And after it caught a little bit of steam, and there was X percent of real estate transactions involving home inspections, at that point, the real estate community, via their boards, via their E&O insurance, via brokers, and most importantly, via the forms that they use for residential purchase agreements, they added in this contingency. And the minute they added in that contingency and said and made it a checkbox that every single buyer had to see, every single real estate agent had to address and ask their clients and say, would you like to get a home inspection? Yes or no. Well, what do you think it looks like for the agent if they say no, right? That's real bad news. But if they say yes, and then they give the amount of time that is allotted to that, and then there's rules, and they vary by market, but generally rules for that inspection contingency of what and how the buyer might ask for corrections. In other words, there's a long way of telling you that your job is to find defects, not to tell people if they even should repair something. I mean, repair as needed is a phrase that should be in inspections on any safety issue. I'm a big proponent of that. But we have to be careful in the wording not to define when it happens in the real estate transaction, because that's not our place. It's outside of our lane. Does that make sense to you?
It definitely makes sense.
And go on to a different section here. HVAC. All right. Now, you do a really good job. I'm going to give you an incredible compliment on something here. In every section of your report, you did a really good job of inventorying things. It's almost like in whatever template you're using, you turned all of them on and you said, I'm going to be the one that I have to check a box to determine what duct type is in the house. That's cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I can nearly guarantee you that no agent is going to have a problem with this inventory that might help their client in getting repairs done or even estimated without somebody being on site. Let's go further through this. The furnace electrical shutoff is shown in the photo. Great. Perfect. And you even said at the entrance of the garage. I like that. that's a good piece of education for the buyer because they're going to be there. And if the furnace goes nuts or whatever, they should know how to turn it off. I guess that was it on the furnace side, huh? Let's go back to some structural stuff. That's always fun. I do like this. I scrolled through it and I almost missed it on this call. You have these inspection details, and you say, hey, there's attendees, and one minor correction to your template. You're using the inspection categories for whether the buyer was on site. Whether there were animals. And I'm not sure that, inspected is the right terminology for whether somebody was there or not. Are there attendees present? Inspected. Well, that might be a little weird depending on, how well or don't know the buyer.
That's just default, and I wish I could change that.
Yeah, well, talk to somebody. Maybe they can change it because it's confusing. All of this stuff is fine. What really matters? Okay. In the what really matters section, here's what I'm going to have to bring in a website for you. If you click on this, nachi.org/what really matters. I'm going to pull this up on the screen for you. All right, here we go. What did you do with your client there?
Send them somewhere else, apparently.
You did, man. And there's a script here, a basic script about what matters in a home inspection. There's nothing mind-blowing there. There's nothing particularly harmful about the script itself. But here's the big problem. If I go over here and go to more or really to any of these, I can find a certified home inspector. So I am one click from your report, and now I'm just going to search Bangor, Maine, and search. That's 2 clicks, and whoa, well, there you are, many lines down. So you just gave a backlink to like a bunch of competitors. Let me be clear on this. You have a wonderful website. You worked for a week on it really hard. You have a wonderful report, and the verbiage is the biggest problem I have with it. It comes from somebody's library of really crappy report comments, but never link back to any association or place where somebody has a list of inspectors. You know what you'll never find on any of our stuff?
Backlinking to other people's stuff.
A list of inspectors. You worked pretty hard to get those clients, right? And you spent the money, you spent the time, you went out and marketed. I would never do that. It's now I'm not saying that anyone that does that is inherently bad. Nick Gromyko, as an example here, since you had the InterNACHI link, is a friend to the home inspection industry, and that makes him a friend to me. But that doesn't mean I want you to give away your customers. And to his credit, he and I have stood up in 45 different cities live reviewing websites for folks and telling them not to do that. In fact, he has specific links for verifying your certifications, that sort of thing, that don't lead, that don't have the 3 clicks to all your competitors. Going on in the report, I don't mind. I like that you put the warranty coverages that you offer in the report, because when somebody has a problem, what's the first thing they do?
And they call
well, they might call their agent, but what's the first thing they're going to look at?
their home inspection report.
Right. And so if you're out inspecting and you're doing, your 3 inspections a day, and your partner's doing his 3 inspections a day, and you hire 5 more guys, you're a busy cat at that point. Oh. If you have a client look at their inspection report because they question, here's this thing that doesn't work today. What did my inspection say? And they run across this they're going to hopefully be reminded that, oh yeah, I have a warranty for this stuff. Here's this thing that broke. I'm going to call them now. And that will save you the time of getting that call. And frankly, save you a lot of hassle, because when they call you, they're like, hey, come out of the gate that you missed something, and then you have to be all defensive. Roof structure. All right. It was inspected. Great. Flashing was inspected. What kind of problems do we have with it? Oh, there's one thing I definitely don't like. I would say that this roof was largely inspected by a drone, was it?
Yes.
Do you personally get on the roofs?
I've fallen off recently from them, and so I felt there's a little, I guess, trying to conquer a fear of trying to climb them. So I use the drone for now until I can reconquer that fear.
Do you get the shakes when you come back down the ladder now?
Uh, the funniest thing was I used to climb these roofs no problem, good little high pitches, but when I guess it's just one of those fears when you fall off. Once I get up there and I try to put my foot right on the roof, I freeze.
Yeah.
And then trying to get back my foot off the roof is another story. But
yeah, so my thing is, and I'm not afraid of heights. I like to go really high and regularly. But my point of nervousness, anxiety, whatever it is that drives those shakes, is on my way back down, and I'm about halfway down the ladder. That's when I start, I can feel the ladder shaking from me. I'm moving, but I'm doing it with this. And let's talk about this one for a minute. I cannot imagine. And do you have kids? I'm sorry, I never asked. I don't know if I know.
I've got 3.
You have 15 kids?
3.
Oh, three. Well, still, that's a lot of kids, man. Mormonism is alive and well. No. I can't imagine where my life would be today if my father, who was a 28-year-old inspector just like you right now, if he had fallen off of a roof at any point prior to my 18th birthday, and really after that. There's a huge safety concern with getting up on a roof. There are safe ways to do it. There are ways to do tie downs and crazy stuff. Most inspectors that do it don't do all the safety things that they should do. But they find the defects when they're on the roof. I've seen personally many tens of thousands of home inspection reports. I have yet to see a drone effectively inspect a roof like a home inspector does when he's on it. So I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to do anything that you're not comfortable with. But I think the drone isn't as good, at least not yet, at inspecting a roof as a human. It's not to say it's not doing an okay job. It's just not finding the levels of deficiencies. And what are we looking for? Leaks at flashings are the most common problem with a roof. How close do you feel like you're getting to flashings and junctures in the roof where leaks are most common? And do you feel like your drone is able to inspect them, well enough to find those problems?
Probably not at the same degree, especially if the problem requires more of a up-close inspection.
Well, one other piece of advice: if you hire an assistant, you can send them up on the roof.
Ooh, well, if I didn't do a merge with company, I'd probably be more okay with that.
You guys will get there. You got to get your volume up, and then both of you do it, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure once that fear kind of breaks through, then we're good to go.
Yeah. Well, all of these other things, you did really good, except on the electrical. You did pretty good on a lot of the comments. Look at this comment for erosion. Signs of erosion in front of garage. Recommend installing gutter to prevent further erosion. There it is. Here's the problem. Here's where it's at. Here's what it might do. Here's what you need to do about it. I mean, that's a perfect note. I think guys are particularly, they get extra geeky about electrical. And again, I know you said you pulled this from a narrative library. I have to think that the guy was being extra geeky on electrical stuff, or that you wrote this note yourself.
Oh, I wrote that one myself.
Oh, well then there you go. Is there anything from the narrative in another section, or from the narrative library in another section other than electrical?
To be honest, a lot of the whole report, window sealant right here, window sealant needs maintenance. That one is from the narrative. So most of those are from the narrative itself, but the erosion doesn't have a section in there, so I had to manually write that myself.
Right. And by the way, 15 years ago, I would have said this report is so stupid, crazy long. It's 60 pages. We used to say, keep it to 20. And then as databases advanced in our industry, we were able to say, all right, add a summary. And that summary should be one to 2 pages. That's it. And you've nailed that. Even with a good, healthy, long list of defects on this house, you still had it summarized within 2 pages. So kudos. By the way, you know where the word kudos comes from, right?
Kudos. Could be. Ooh, no, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure it means something to the extent of glory to the warrior. So like, you did good. You deserve the glory for all of these dead Romans. I don't know, whatever. There was an old context to that, but kudos to you and keep up the good fight. Let's go to one last thing. All right, now the rest of this really is the same kind of issue. Just read the notes and go, all right, if I'm a real estate agent, how much of a problem do I have with this note? Notice I did not say, if I'm a real estate agent, which defects would I not want listed here? I want all the defects listed that you listed. You did a perfect job on that. You're doing a really good inspection. But don't tell them how to do their job. Don't tell their people how to negotiate their deal. That causes an issue. Now, when this report's all done and it's sent off to the client, how do you do that? Which parties receive it?
So when I send this off, since I'm using the software, they get a text message and an email, both the realtor and the client. Usually I have an option to choose which one gets it first, but I usually just send them all at once.
Okay, I would send them all at once. And I, depending on where you're at, if you're watching this from a state that has home inspector licensing, there might be a law on this one. You got to get permission from the client anyway to send it to the buyer's agent. My suggestion to you, if you haven't already done so, is make sure that your agreement simply says that the buyer's agent will be getting a copy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because right now, it only sends to whoever I have information to. I don't think it sends it to the buyer's agent. I've never really tested that theory. I don't put their information in there because it's the client who hired me and the realtor that works along with them. So those are the only two parties that actually receive the report.
Okay, let's go back to this concept because so many home inspectors don't understand this one. The buyer is working with a real estate agent who is negotiating for them in the real estate transaction. That buyer's agent who's representing them is the only person that was authorized, that had the compliant fiduciary responsibility to fill out that purchase agreement for that real property for them. So that buyer's agent is the one that said, you want an inspection, right? Okay, yes, we're going to get 14 days to respond, and here's this thing. And then the only way to respond to that is for that agent to pull the inspection contingency response form and send it to the other agent to ask the seller to fix the shit.
I said seller, didn't I? Did I say something?
Okay, hold on. I heard buyer's agent, but
okay, okay, never mind. I thought I said seller. Wait.
But I said selling agent. Just so you know, in real estate they call it the selling agent and the listing agent.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
So, or the buyer's agent and listing agent. Um, the seller's agent is kind of a clumsy phrase to use in real estate because it sounds like selling, which is really the buyer's. Anyway, let's get this straight for a second. So that buyer's agent is the one that needs the information in order to advise their client, in order to write the form and send the response back to the other side. They should get that report every time, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Go find your inspection agreement and put a line in there that says your inspection report will be exclusively sent to you and your real estate agent, and have them sign and agree to that. Make sense?
Oh yeah, that
Don't,
makes perfect sense.
don't make it an option. If somebody actually raises their hand and says, I'm a buyer, I'm working with you as a client, I do not want my real estate agent to get a copy of this. If that happens, what do you do?
Honestly, if they don't want their agent getting the report, I would apply. I guess I would oblige because they're paying for the service.
I agree. You should oblige. Anything else you should do?
Make sure it's an agreement. But other than that,
Yeah, you
I
could
think what else
you
I
could
could
put
do.
it in the agreement. I mean, if they're willing to sign the agreement that says it goes to all parties and just trust your, word that you're not going to send it to their agent, I'm okay with that. There's no reason to adjust the agreement. If they want the adjustment to the agreement, great. Cross out that line, initial it, both of you, great. Done. The thing where I was going with this was you need to pick up the phone and call the agent.
See, I was thinking about that. I just didn't feel like that would probably be. I didn't know if that was a good idea or not.
Well, let me give you a script, okay? And I'll role play. I'm you. You're the real estate agent. Hey, TJ, this is Nathan with Accredited Home Inspections. I wanted to let you know I just scheduled a home inspection for your buyers on the property at 123 Main Street. And when I was talking to them, I sent our agreement over, and they opted not to have anyone other than them get the report. In other words, they wanted me to send the report to them exclusively. And I just wanted to let you know that. And if you have any questions on anything, let me know. Simple. Now, what is, that says a lot to the buyer's agent. It says, one, that you are thorough and diligent and you're going to make sure that they're aware if there's some issue. And that means something. This is a relationship-based business. The second thing is, it tells the agent that they might have a problem child. They might have a buyer that doesn't trust them, is going to be difficult, and they can start to prepare for that, and they can work through through issues with their client more effectively if they have that knowledge. And if they take that knowledge and they don't do anything with it, then they're not a very diligent agent, but they should do something with it, right?
Yeah, I see. Because I always make it a habit to always call the agent afterwards just to verify all the information. I used to call the listing agent and make sure all the stuff was prepared, but I gave up on that shortly after.
By the way, I love your pictures. They're perfect. How many are there any pictures that you take at the house that are not in the report?
Um, there are times where I might think it's an issue, take the photo, and then do some research to make sure that I'm correct if it's not an issue. But a lot of times, most of my photos do end up in the report, either as I inspected it, it worked fine, just kind of like liability, like say, for example, right there, the toilet flushed or the water turned on. What if I left the next day and the toilet was like, hey, are you sure you inspected this? It's not flushing right. I'm like, oh, in the report, it was flushing when I was there.
Sure.
So it's kind of
I
more
was
of like,
just going to say, if this is a lot of the pictures in here were, here's this area, and then you put them in the report. I don't have a problem with that because it's still under 60 pages on a house with a heap of problems with a summary that's under 2. So you did fine. I just wanted to make sure that you weren't one of these guys that takes 400 other pictures and puts it on a hard drive somewhere. Okay, good.
That's
Right.
over. That's overreaching, in my opinion. I just take what is relevant to the inspection at the time.
Yep. Perfect. All right. Well, and I love the shower. I don't think it's working real well.
Water pressure issue, that much for sure.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's on a well too.
Yeah, I already addressed it. Well pump was short cycling because the bladder had an issue. So I
Okay.
recommend a plumber go in and check that issue, verify the issue.
All right. So no, that is why it would cycle like that. Um, did you actually diagnose that the bladder was gone?
Only reason why I knew at the time was because it happened to me twice.
Okay. All right.
Only
Well,
reason.
obviously it could be that. It could be that, the pressure sensor has a problem or something along those lines. But either way, it's not working right. Most likely a bladder. It's just it's interesting that you would know that. As a home warranty guy, I know that because when somebody calls and they have that issue, it's almost always that. Okay. What other
You,
questions? Do you
uh,
have anything that you want me to focus on in this report before we move on to other topics?
no, I mean, blow my mind up a little bit because definitely I thought when I got the narratives and everything would be peachy, and I should have just done my due diligence and actually broke it down and read it. No one was giving me a bluff about it, all the information, but after reading it with you, I'm just like, I think I should just go on and just freehand it from now on because a lot of those I could see why people would be hesitant.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily freehand it. What I would do is I would have um, a very reasonable but limited library that starts off a lot of notes or that covers 90% of the issues but doesn't cover the other 10%. And I mean, it's the electrical section I have the biggest problem with. Here we go. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen such a long book about a single switch in a kitchen that was inoperable. Like, yeah, this is a fire hazard, man. You're gonna die. You need to have somebody come out and trace this thing, and this is not something we do. And by the way, it needs to be done by a qualified electrician. In case you did not get the "Hey, dumbass, don't let the seller fix this stuff" message. Oh man, but here's the thing, and maybe someday if I post this publicly that there's an agent that sees this that's in your market, and it's 2 years from now. They'll know that you corrected it. One. So agent watching this, he corrected it. He's committed to it. But also they'll know that, you know all this stuff. And if their client wants to talk to you, that you take a reasonable approach and that you understand what their role is in the transaction, what your role is in the transaction. So that's it for me. I'll let you get back to your Sunday unless you got any burning questions or things that we can start some crap on the internet about.
Always up for that stuff. But
well, let me go through some of your posts here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you did mention you were going to go can't tongue tied over here. Yeah.
Oh, I got this one. So you got a fake 1-star review with no comment from another home inspection company. And that same person, in quotation marks, gave themselves a 5-star review right before giving you the 1. This person never had an inspection from us. What do you do about it? By the way, do you know what to do about
it? Well, that was up to the debate because the fact of the matter is I knew exactly who it was from and why the reason was. I eventually got it removed. And they didn't want to remove it until I told them since that we had the proof it was them, I was going to make it public. And that's probably not the most professional thing to do. And if it was, I would probably just go in if they don't want to remove it, because I went to them kindly about it. Probably just go in there and just in the comment section saying, sorry, we don't have.
Hold on, let me back up just for a couple of fact checks on this. Are you saying that you reached out to the person that made the post that you knew very well was the person that made the post?
Correct.
Okay, that's the first question. Second question, Did they admit to doing it?
Yes.
Okay. Third question. Did they then take it down?
With some convincing.
Wow.
They weren't going to remove it until I told them I was going to make it public.
That's ridiculous. That is just ridiculous. I mean, if somebody has to be under threat of that to do the right thing, that's horrible. I'm sorry you experienced that. In the future, if they're smarter about their trying to ruin your reputation online for no good reason at all, they'll give you a 1-star review and it won't be traceable. When that happens, you mark it as in your Google, in Yelp, and all of them. They have a way to dispute a claim or dispute a review. And you not only do that, but you go in a private group of friendlies, your inspector buddies, maybe a local community page, whatever it is that you're involved in. And you just say, hey guys, I got this review. Here's this, screenshot of it. And here's the brief story. It's not real. I marked it, but it would be really great if anybody had some time, if you could go and mark it as well. And what happens is these Google, Yelps, et cetera, if they get, 30 people screaming about a post, they're quicker to review it and see that it's, and look into it. And somebody, somewhere probably in another country will take the time to click on that review, click on the person who made it, and see if they're real, see how many other reviews they made, maybe even reach out to them. I doubt they reach out to them. I think they just delete it at that point because they don't want to invest a lot of time in investigating it. Let's see, what else? I got my InterNACHI certification yesterday, as well as my thermal imaging training and certification. I was performing a test run and came across a lot of areas I'm questioning. Okay. So you got the IR certifications, got it. Are you offering that as an additional service or inclusive in your inspection in some way?
I only offer them in my inspections. I don't offer it as an additional service because right now I only have the small FLIR camera.
Yeah.
And the resolution's not that great to go pull on a full-on inspection about.
Hey, I disagree. I sell a ton of C2s on inspectorshop.net, and having been there when we spent the $25,000 or $30,000 on the first IR camera that had about 1/5 the resolution of it, if that, of that one, it actually does all right. You just got to get closer. That works. But so it's something that you're using to do a reality check, right?
Yeah. First, when I got into the home inspection business, everyone had them, and I thought, oh, I have to get this in order to compete. And all honesty, not really up here. Not one really cares about infrared and in the home inspection range to really push out that marketing strategy. But I use it. It really adds a nice flair to people. It really shows that I actually give a crap about detail.
You give a crap about it. Yeah, no, I get that. And to your point, if this is horrible, I'm going to give you a factual statement, and some might take it as an opinion. It's not an opinion. It's not subjective. If I go through all of my sales from inspectorshop.net to the beginning of time on infrared, and I look at the guys that bought the C2, that bought the TG165, even that got into the E4, E5, E6 level, if they're using it as a part of their inspection like you are, and just, going to that extra level of service, or maybe even offering some additional ancillaries that include infrared, they do pretty well. All of the guys that bought $20,000 cameras did not. I can see, and I can connect it because of my other systems, the volume that they do in their inspection business. Don't be an IR geek. That's one of the reasons why I have Monroe Infrared coming to my conference here in a couple of weeks, because they teach and they keep it simple, and they don't they don't try to make a whole other business out of infrared, which takes you away from, your core business. And that's not good. Let's see, what else did you have in here?
Yeah, that's like I feel like inspectors that have too many gimmicks to their field kind of really stretches out your focus a
Right.
lot.
Well,
I used to.
I think it's okay to have a lot that you offer to a client. It's okay to deliver incredible value, more than anybody else out there. And it's definitely okay, in fact, even recommended, that you have a full menu of every service that someone might need from a home inspector in a real estate transaction.
Mhm.
But if you buy a $20,000 camera, and I'm not, it should be noted, I also have United Infrared coming to my conference, and they're doing a sewer camera training. But I have them doing the sewer camera training because, what are you going to look at with that sewer camera? Sewers. And it's going to be a part of the real estate transaction. I say this with some level of humor. If I see you with a $20,000 camera on your way to an equine facility to look at a horse hoof, you're not growing a home inspection business at that point. You might be making a lot of money off that one, stop by to see a horse, but you're not creating something that is that you can build on. Let me put it that way.
Well, no, because I know my sewer camera right now is only like the $500 one you got off of Amazon, and it works. And then
Yep.
I got my C3, works perfect.
Yep. All right, I got another one that you posted here, which is pretty nice. I like it. A relative of mine is putting in a bid on a home. Is it a conflict of interest for me to inspect the home, or does it only matter if it's a pre-inspection? Okay. I'm not sure what pre-inspection has anything to do with the question, to be honest with you. Let's dumb down the question a little bit more. Your family member is the buyer or seller of a property, and you are inspecting it. Is it a conflict of interest? Yes or no?
As far as I know, only if he's the buyer. If he's the seller, it is.
Okay. So let's have another one of those little mind-blowing conversations on this. I think you got it backwards there. It's okay. It's okay. So let me give you a big one. My grandfather, Don Thornberry, was a Remax agent here in Indianapolis, and he sold a lot of property. He was had these broad listing contracts with a couple of builders, and then he also had a lot of clients that knew him from all of his restaurants. He had 3 different restaurants over his lifetime here in Central Indiana. And it's kind of cool. I can see one of them from my house. But he had all that, and in his town, the biggest home inspection company, the best home inspection company, the home inspection company to be, is Phil and Patty Thornberry's Security Home Inspections in Carmel, Indiana. It's his son's company. Does he tell his buyers to use his son's company?
I would say no, because conflict of interest.
Man, that sucks. I hate that viewpoint. Let me tell you why. Number one, there was definitely a disclosure always of the relationship. And if you disclose it and then you do your job and you find defects that are real and you don't find defects that aren't, then where's the conflict? There's no conflict. It's a disclosed relationship.
If you put that if you open it up and say, this is it, we are related, but there is no, hey, I'm going to protect his sale, whatever. I don't honestly personally see it, but if you look at if you don't know, it kind of look bad.
Right. Well, and that's why you disclose it. But admittedly, for a few years in the warranty business, even, I didn't have my grandfather's business for home warranties. For a few years in the home inspection business, my father did not have my grandfather's business in home inspections because of that fear that it would look bad. But then, there's an argument on the other side, which is, all right, here's this inspector, and I'll kind of brag on my dad for a moment. Here's this inspector that has like every license of every type of contractor. Like all the other home inspectors in town are home inspectors, and they're members of the association, or they got that certification, or they watched this internet video. But this guy went and he got a plumbing license. I mean, the kind of plumbing license where you have to sit in front of a plumbing board and demonstrate your knowledge of how to install plumbing types that are commercial and not even in use. I mean, it's a crazy difficult license to get. One of the first in the country to go out and get a WDO license and actually be a pest control operator, but never spray an ounce of chemical. All right. We're talking about really, really caring about everything that you do and doing it really well. And so if you're Don Thornberry, and you have, and I think Don did that all his life as well. And then my dad did that all his life. And you're in real estate, and the guy that is the most diligent, takes care of clients the way that you would want them to be taken care of, is your son. Should all of your clients be disadvantaged because of that relationship and your fear of referring the best?
Put it that way, no.
Yeah, I mean, that would suck. I mean, I'd have to, at that time, if you think about it this way, you'd have to tell a client, hey, I have a conflict with the biggest, best home inspection company, or, however you want to describe it. So I can't represent you as a buyer's agent because I can't ensure that you get the best home inspection, because I can't refer them to you. So I have to give you somebody who's worse. That sucks. So if you're the best home inspector and you have a thorough report and somewhat aggressive on the wording, I think I know where this came from. But otherwise you do an amazing job and you protect clients. And unlike that inspector that probably I might have, once you put my logos on your website, you start to get targeted by guys, because now you're marketing and aggressively, and they can't argue that what you do isn't better than what they do. It is better, right? It's a great inspection plus a warranty. That is better than just a great home inspection. And so, this guy goes out and does that. Your brother, your relative that you mentioned in this post, what should they do? Go get an inspection from him because of a conflict instead of getting your great service, great protections, all that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Because I didn't receive any kickback or anything. I just did a home inspection for a relative. So
I don't care if he handed you $10,000 in cash in a bag at the inspection in front of everyone, like, in a blatant show of, this is my dude. Were the defects real? Did you find the defects that were there and not find the ones that weren't? That's simple. Let's see. I'll hit you with one last one, and then we'll wrap it up. You had some good posts. You asked, for those who go to open houses, what do you do to market yourself? And this is a quote. This is something from like a day ago. So Maine is open. We don't have any COVID issues. You're not going to have somebody screaming at you for showing up to that open house?
As long as you wear a mask and gloves.
Okay. All right. So show your safety, be respectful, and you're going to be able to walk in. Did you get much of a response from folks online, other inspectors, to this question? And how is that leading you to making a decision on adding open house marketing to your platform?
Well, with anything, you're always going to get a really healthy mix of yay and nays. I think most of it was nays, and honestly, I don't think I would probably waste my time with it because I don't know, honestly. I mean, I like the idea because you can go in there and like brand yourself and show yourself and everything, and not really based off of people's not succeeding in it. But I'm still on the fence because anytime I make a decision, I like to stay on the fence and lean either way. because it helps me see the if there's a problem, even with an employee of mine. I like to see both sides. Doesn't matter if I know you too well or not. I need to make sure I know. But
Let me put in
I don't see enough
context.
people have good results to make that full decision.
Right. So let me put this in the same box as a lot of this one-on-one style marketing, right? You know, a BNI group, inviting people out for coffee, etc. Yes, that has a return on investment. The question is whether it has a great return on investment for your time. So very early on, I figured out I couldn't go to all the BNI meetings. So do my salespeople go to them every once in a while? Every once in a while, but they don't really participate because usually it's the same people over and over again. With the open houses, it's a little different because now you're showing up and you're showing up to a new person every time. And sometimes the name on the sign isn't the name of the person there. There's an open house being hosted by an agent who's a new agent trying to, find their way in the world. And they booked an open house for a listing for somebody in their office. And they did that to meet people. Well, should they meet you? If you have the best product, you have the best service, and you inspect like you do, which is amazing, great. It's a benefit for them to meet you. So maybe that was the reason that they were there that day. I don't have a problem with you walking in there. I have a problem with a return on investment of your time. So don't do it, when you could be doing other more productive things. But sure, you need to keep a nice little stack of things that you hand to agents. And when you're driving by one that's open, the balloons are flying from the sign in front of it, and it's on your way somewhere and you're not running late, or you have the time to stop in. What a great time to make a connection.
Interesting point of view. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't like pull a copy of the newspaper or the open house listings and like plan a route of hit every open house this weekend. That's a
My
little,
schedule will not allow that.
that's a little over the top anyway. So don't do that. But otherwise, I think you're doing a great job, and I really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday, because what you're bringing up is something that so many are probably experiencing, but they talk about it in these kind of wrong terms online, and the responses to them are usually either dismissive or macho. Sometimes there's a good tip here or there, but we really become just so invincible online, don't we?
Oh yeah, that keyboard warrior.
Yes. Speaking of warriors, kudos to you, and we'll see you maybe at Inspection Super Conference.
Hope so.
All right. Later, man.